Do you ever get the feeling that some places are better left unexplored? There are certain regions of the world that we simply shouldn't go to, like the mysterious lost city of Atlantis, or Area 51 in Nevada. In our modern era, there are still plenty of restricted zones where non-government personnel aren't exactly welcome. But have you ever heard about an entire island forbidden to mankind by the gods themselves? This is Delos, the mystical Greek island where nobody is supposed to die or give birth. What dark secrets does this island hold? Why did the Greeks come here to cleanse themselves? And what happened to those who broke the most sacred rules of all? Let's find out today on Fake News Greece. It was said that before the rise of the great Greek Empire, there existed a tiny island called Delos floating around in the Aegean Sea between the islands of Naxos and Mykonos. No one knew the exact location of the island because it was shrouded in myth and legend. However, according to the oracle at Delphi, those who searched for this island would be granted eternal wisdom if they found it. So many brave heroes set sail to find the lost island of Delos. Unfortunately, all of them ended up dead in the water, except for one, a young man named Minos. He returned home after searching for the mythical island only to be struck down by lightning while he was boasting about his adventure. Of course, this was no coincidence. These people weren't just dying randomly. They were being killed for even thinking about going to the sacred island of Delos, because according to ancient Greek mythology, the island was the birthplace of the gods Apollo and Artemis. You might recognize these two deities from my other videos. They are god and goddess of music, arts, light, and the sun. So naturally, the island of Delos was considered one of the holiest places in all of Greece. But what made the island so sacred was the fact that no human life was allowed there. If anyone dared to die on the island, their corpse had to be immediately taken off by boat to avoid polluting the land. That meant that sometimes people who were dying a horrible death right on the beach would have to be dragged away into the sea. Likewise, no woman was permitted to set foot on the island if she was pregnant or if she gave birth there. She and her child would both be banished forever. Even the thought of a baby being born on Delos was disgusting to the ancient Greeks, because it would contaminate the purity of the island. To make sure that no one would break this sacred law, religious leaders kept watch over every single person who arrived at Delos. Anyone who didn't leave the island within 3 days would be branded with a hot iron rod so they could never set foot on another holy island again. That doesn't sound very nice. In ancient times, pilgrims came here from all over Greece to purify themselves by bathing in the waters of Delos. After all, it was believed that the waters of the island could wash away even the most grievous of sins. And it wasn't just sinners who needed cleansing. Sometimes entire cities would send their citizens to the island for purification rituals. Like when the citizens of Athens were stricken by a deadly plague, the authorities sent them to Delos for a cleansing ceremony in hopes that it would stop the spread of disease. For travelers who wanted to visit the island, they often had to pay a fee. The money went towards animal sacrifices, which were used to appease the gods and goddesses and hopefully prevent them from getting struck down by lightning. People also offered expensive gifts to the priests of Apollo. They hoped that the priests would intercede on their behalf and ask the gods to bless their journey home. Sometimes people brought golden objects to the temple of Apollo. Other times they would leave behind their dirty clothes and bathe in the sea. Then they would take new clothes and put them on top of the old ones as a gift for the gods. This way they would receive the blessing of Apollo and Artemis without having to sacrifice an animal or give a large sum of money. The island was dotted with numerous temples, terraces, and monuments dedicated to the gods. a huge temple of Apollo stood on the terrace of lions, guarded by 4 enormous stone lions. Nearby, the marble-paved terrace of the Athenians contained a sanctuary dedicated to the god Pan. The great treasure house of the island held priceless gifts from all over the known world. Some of the items were so valuable that they were chained up to prevent thieves from stealing them. On the southeastern part of the island stood a huge altar where hundreds of bulls were sacrificed each year. The altar of the giants was so massive that it required 100 men to carry it. And finally, there was the famous terrace of the Caryatides, a row of 7 maidens who served as priestesses to the god Apollo. Each of them was immortal until they broke the law of the island. When Icarion tried to save a drowning swimmer, she violated the ancient laws of Delos and was turned into stone. As punishment, she and all of her sisters were doomed to live out the remainder of their lives as inanimate statues. But despite being such a holy place, the island of Delos was also a hive of industry and commerce. At its peak, the island boasted a massive harbor filled with merchant ships from all over the Mediterranean. The profits from the slave trade were second to none, and Delos quickly became one of the wealthiest cities in Greece. Ironically, the slaves themselves came from many of the same lands whose citizens traveled to Delos for purification rituals. Many people believe that the wealth generated by the slave trade helped to finance the construction of the mighty temple of Apollo. However, this prosperity eventually led to trouble. The more successful the island became, the more people it attracted. And that meant that the number of potential sinners increased tenfold. Around 500 BC, the Delian League, a group of 325 Greek city-states, chose Delos as their headquarters. Their goal was to defeat the Persians once and for all. But since so many influential people were living on the island now, it was becoming more difficult to enforce the ancient laws. Eventually, the Delian League disbanded, and the sacred island returned to being a simple place of worship. But then, 300 years later, it got really weird. In the year 200 BC, the Roman Emperor Ptolemy VIII decided to build a new city near the island of Delos. He named it Delos Magna, or Greater Delos. To make this new city prosperous, he allowed people to do things that were forbidden on the original island. People were allowed to marry in Delos Magna, but no one could get divorced there either. If a couple wanted a divorce, they had to travel to the original island of Delos and ask the oracle for guidance. In ancient times, the oracle of Delphi was a woman named Pythia, who was said to be possessed by the spirit of prophecy while inhaling poisonous gases that came from a crack in the earth. After she spoke, her words were written down and passed along to whoever had requested the prophecy. Often these prophecies were vague and open to interpretation. Once the people of Croton asked the oracle of Delphi, "Should we attack the Spartans?" She replied, "If you wish, you may attack them." So they attacked the Spartans, losing 420 men. Later, the oracle said to those who had survived, "If you wish, you may attack the Spartans." Again, they attacked the Spartans and lost 430 men. Finally, she told them, "If you wish, you may attack the Spartans." And they attacked the Spartans, losing only 40 men. This time, when the people of Croton returned home, they consulted the oracle of Delphi again, asking her, "Are we destined to lose men until we are totally destroyed?" She replied, "You will not be destroyed until you tire of asking whether you should attack the Spartans." So it seems like the oracle wasn't always 100% accurate. Another oddity about the island is that during the Middle Ages, It was rumored to be the home of pirates and privateers. During this time, piracy was a common profession, especially in the Aegean Sea. Many pirates lived on the island of Delos, because it was considered neutral territory. Since it was under the protection of Apollo and Artemis, no other nation could attack it. One Greek historian wrote that the island was infested with pirates and could safely support 40,000 armed men. While it's true that Delos was a popular hideout for pirates, it's unlikely that there were ever 40,000 of them living there. In reality, there probably weren't more than a few hundred pirates on the island at any given time. Still, it was enough to make trade in the Aegean Sea extremely dangerous. During the Middle Ages, Delos became the main base of operations for the Knights of St. John. This religious order was founded in 1098, to protect pilgrims on their way to the Holy Land. Over time, they grew from a small group of volunteers into a powerful military force. By 1200 AD, the Knights Hospitaller, as they were also called, controlled the entire island of Delos. They built castles and fortified cities to protect themselves from attack. During the Crusades, many European Christians seized pagan shrines and forced the local populations to convert to Christianity. But on the island of Delos, the Christians didn't destroy the old temples. Instead, they incorporated them into their own religion. Today, visiting the island feels like stepping back in time. It's eerily silent, and there are no birds or insects to be heard. Some say this is because the island has been cursed by the gods, forbidding anyone from ever settling there again. Others say that the spirits of those who died on the island are still trapped there in woe and rest in peace. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.